So, 28 years later is the story of Spike, who is played by Alfie Williams, a young boy who is coming of age 28 years after the initial outbreak of the rage virus in Britain. Of course, this is preceded by two films, 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. 28 Days Later came out 23 years ago and was directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. 28 Weeks Later came out, I think, a couple years later, and I don't think either of them were involved. I think Garland might have written part of the script. Right. Yeah, but I don't. They're totally different crew, different people, different angle. This is a return to form. These are the original people who made the original. They have shot 28 years later, and we're talking about it now. Yes, Spike is coming of age 28 years after the initial outbreak. Great Britain has been quarantined from the rest of the world, and there was this outbreak here, and now everything kind of has stayed there, and all these zombies are kind of on the island, and that's just kind of the way it is, and somehow they've managed to get everything under wraps. But we don't really get a lot of that in Spike's story, because Spike is more focused on going out for his very first time onto the mainland with his father, Jamie, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. Jamie is a bit of a warrior in this kind of tribe. We all wear modern clothes, we all have modern trappings, but we're using things like bows and arrows. We're writing pen and paper. We're not using smartphones. We don't have cellular service. It's kind of a trimmed down, more basic, simpler I look at British life from 20-ish years ago when the outbreak happened, and they've been continuing ever since on this island. Anyway, we cross into the mainland with Jamie and Spike. We get some good action on the front, but at home, things are a little bit more complicated because while zombies are not on the island that our characters are staying on, there is Isla, played by Jodie Comer, who is Spike's mom and Jamie's wife, who is not doing well. She has some kind of sickness or affliction that she is suffering. They don't really understand what it is. And when Spike, one night while they're out, sees a flame in the distance, this large sort of bonfire, he starts to inquire about it and realizes that there's a strange man that lives out there named Dr. Kelson. When he hears that it's a doctor and that they haven't had any doctors on the island in years, he realizes that maybe, just maybe, Kelson can help figure out what's going on with his mom. So he hatches a plan to take to the mainland with his mother in tow and hopefully find some answers and find a solution. It is a really interesting film, 28 years later. It is edited with a freaking razor blade. It is made by people who are making something that is intentionally lo-fi and gritty. It is all shot on iPhone 15 Pro Maxes, though admittedly with very fancy lenses. It's not like they just took the phone out of the box and started filming. They got camera rigs and tripods and stuff, but I'm very much looking forward to talking about it. So Andy, what did you think of 28 years later?
I was really blown away by this, and I've been looking forward to this movie all year. It had really impressive trailers, looked really creepy and scary, and it delivered on so many levels, on the filmmaking, the film technique level, on a narrative plot wise. It's full of lots of different kinds of themes. It's about family, it's about religion, it's about lots of things. And it's also kind of subversive. I think one of the biggest surprises is that this is really a coming-of-age story inside of a zombie movie. This, similar to Sinners. Sinners was not about our big stars, Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld. It was about Sammy, preacher boy Sammy, played by Miles Cadden. He's actually the main character. And that's the same thing in this movie. Spike is the young child, played by Alfie Williams, is the main character. It's his story. It's a coming-of-age tale, which the first act is kind of very traditional. He's on the island. He's got to kind of do his first kill, learn how to survive, kind of hunt with his dad. They have some scary moments. But then, of course, we have to return to the island, and that first excursion is, about the physical, what I think of as the physical, surviving, running, hunting, all that, how to survive yourself. But then it's more of an emotional coming of age in the second part, where he goes back to the island to try to find someone who can help with his mother's sickness. And it's so tense and so dense, and like my heart was pounding in the first act alone. There's tons of really high strung moments. You don't know who is and isn't going to make it because it's so early in the film. Then I was with it from beginning to end. And for those who don't know, this is part of a planned trilogy, which the second film has already been made and will be coming out in January, called The Bone 28 years later, The Bone Temple. continuing the story. The third film is kind of yet to be made. They're waiting on financing, but it's looking like it probably is going to happen.
It's such a tall order to pick up a series after this much time and having stepped away from it, right? Like Boyle and Garland did not make 28 Weeks Later, which had a very different style than 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later was shot on like mini DV cameras, man, in like 480p, and it kind of looks terrible, but they shot this movie for like no budget with a very young Cillian Murphy who had not done a whole lot yet, right? He certainly wasn't the Oppenheimer we know today. Like, it was small. They had to like shoot this stuff in London, then go out to the fields and shoot it. Like, it was intimate. And the cameras in that movie are so low quality that they intentionally committed to a design, like a cinematography style where they use a lot of Dutch angles and they use a lot of like close-up objects and focus away from something far away. They mount cameras to like handrails, like very specific decisions to make the film look visually unique, because they knew that if they shot it like a traditional movie, it would look terrible. Like, these cameras cannot hold up. They're poor resolution. If they had no budget, that's what that movie was. And then 28 Weeks Later comes out, and it's much more action-oriented. Jeremy Renner is in it, and he's a sniper, and it's like we're in the city, and there's way more action. It's way more exciting, and that's great. So for this one, you have to pick up after all these years with all these expectations that people have over where the series is going to go. I mean, I remember people joking about the idea of a 28 Months Later and then 28 Years Later movie years ago. Like that, just because they made 28 days, 28 weeks, months, and years rolls right into it, right? You got to pick up that up after this much time. You're also starting the first in a trilogy, so you better be making something that's going to work, or else you're going to flop and you're way too invested. How do you do it, right? Like, and somehow they stick the landing. They stick the landing in such a big way. And it's because, I think, of this commitment to this old style. Shooting the film on iPhone 15s is strange. And I had talked about just last week how I didn't think this was necessarily going to look great and it probably wasn't going to work. But they committed to all those same tricks that worked all those years ago. Wild Dutch angles, insane like rack focuses, like crazy camera movements, weird structure. Editing this thing like, I don't know, like it's a music video or something, like putting the camera in places you would never expect, giving the whole movie a look that feels totally unique to anything else in the space right now. It feels like a zombie movie that is cut entirely from other things, that is different, that is so far removed. It does not feel like The Walking Dead. This does not feel like The Last of Us. This feels like something that is so special and so its own, while also being the third movie in a franchise and having other movies to come after. Like, incredibly strange. I can't believe it works as good as it does. There is this one effect that I don't want to give away, but Andy knows what I'm talking about, when an arrow goes through a zombie's face and it does this rad thing that is so cool looking, dude. And I was so locked into it. It's not for everybody. I've talked to some people since. They said they weren't into it. It was a weird effect. But there's more here in the cinematic language that is expressive than in so many other zombie movies. It's like it's totally its own space. It's doing its own thing. It's crazy. It's in its own lane.
Yeah, there's a lot of wild camera work, which I think helps keep the tension. There's use of like an infrared thing where the scenes look red, and I remember Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. He's like thinking back to like he comes upon a scene and he thinks back of like what must have happened here, and it's all done in this red hue where he kind of imagines, oh, the zombies were here, there were people here, and this happens several times, and it's just it's a great way to kind of do a flashback or to see what a character's thinking. And there's lots of those kinds of effects that just keep it really unique looking, and like I said, help keep the tension. There's a great moment in the first act where there's a really intense chase sequence, and we have an incredible score by a group called Young Fathers that's very operatic, very slow-mo, while this incredibly tense moment is happening, and it's things like that just make it so interesting. And a lot of times, I've talked about this before, first acts are difficult to do. It's really easy to get boring and bogged down in the setup, but 28 Years Later just keeps it intense from the beginning. It doesn't waste a ton of time on exposition or setup. The rules are very clear. We know we're taking Spike out to the mainland. The rest of the elders think he's too young, but Aaron Taylor Johnson reassures him, no, my boy's ready. I'm trying to raise him right, be productive member of society, all that. It just goes from the beginning and it would just work so
Yeah.
well.
It's true. Performances are outstanding. People have been praising Alfie Williams as Spike, who's a newcomer. I think he's born in 2011. So this year he's 14. He plays 12 in the movie. So if he's about 13 when they're shooting it, it's pretty spot on. And he's big talent. He's very emotional. He's quiet when he needs to be. He's scared when he needs to be, which is very important in a zombie movie, especially with these kinds of zombies. Meanwhile, Aaron Taylor Johnson as Jamie is great. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson. Like, I think he's really good in this movie. I've heard people say he doesn't really get enough time. I disagree. I think him taking Spike onto the mainland and them having these interactions is charming and mysterious, because while he's very strong, he seems to kind of make a joke of things. Like, it's funny that they shot a zombie in the head. Haha, that one almost got me. Like, it's like odd, and you can't quite dial into why he's got this feeling. But his son is named Spike, which is something that is uniquely aggressive, right? He didn't name him Paul or John or Ringo. He named him Spike, like, which is like a very, a weapon, a tool, like something sharp, which is appropriate for somebody who's born effectively a little over halfway into this infection, right? His mother, Isla, played by Jodie Comer, I think is getting her flowers. She's playing this woman who is disaffected and is slipping in and out of reality and doesn't quite see things the way they are. And Comer's great. We've talked about Comer on the show before. No complaint. Bike Riders. Ridley Scott movie. She's really good in Last Duel. Like, no complaints on Comer. And then Ray Fiennes, who we won't talk much about here, he's Ray Fiennes, man. He's great. He might be doing better than everybody else in this movie. I have no complaints about him. So, like, solid all around.
So Danny Boyle and writer Alex Garland have told us that, or I heard in an interview, that this first movie is about the nature of family. And the second movie will be about the nature of evil. And the third, if they make it, will be about the nature of redemption. But focusing on family, we have the father figure, of course, in Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is Spike's father, but he's kind of lacking in some ways. People are debating whether or not he's a good or bad father, because he has taught him how to survive, how to like shoot, how to hunt, how to all those kinds of things. But he also is a little reckless. He takes Spike onto the mainland before he's maybe really ready. He takes some risks he really shouldn't. And kind of the big revelation in Spike's life from that first visit is, hey, the adults in my life are maybe lying about certain things, not just his father, but maybe other people, maybe. And so he begins to question a number of things in his life. And that's kind of the big mind-blowing moment, more than like hunting zombies and foraging and all those sorts of things. But then we see the place where Jodie Comer as his mother takes a place in his life later, Ray Fiennes' character. And so I kind of have this thing where, like, it takes a village. It's no one person that can like raise. It takes a village to raise the child. So family is a big theme in this first film, and it's just incredible to see something like so many strong thematic elements in what is a zombie movie.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the village. Actually, it's perfect segue. The world of 28 years later. It's not quite as violent as I had remembered. And I think that's okay. Because at first I was like, how are they outrunning rage zombies, dude? You don't outrun... Rage zombies are the ones you don't want. And every zombie apocalypse I did, these are the ones you don't want these guys. These are the ones that are going to run you down and kill you. It's been 28 years. They're falling apart, right? Like, and that kind of works out to the movie's benefit, that like they're not quite as wildly, rabidly fast and dangerous as they used to be. Additionally, worth remembering, these guys didn't make 28 weeks later when they're much faster and much stronger. Like that is a different set of filmmakers who made that movie. So it doesn't really apply like to what we're doing in here, but even still, they're plenty dangerous. And you get some scaling. You get some zombies that are real weak and real frail and really have fallen apart, and also some zombies that are real strong and real fast and real big. So that's nice. Additionally, I like that the mainland and their island is separated by this big long like water thing where the tide comes in, tide comes out, like creates a believable, realistic setting. And additionally, not all seems well in Spike's little village of quarantine. Like there's some odd things going on. And when you start to look in the background and start to notice characters wearing weird masks and some kind of like holy symbolism back there, you start to realize like, hey man, like things are a little weird here. Like, y'all are not completely normal and balanced. And this is, again, a culture that's been there for 28 years, right? Like nearly 3 decades. They've been living right next to this absolute nightmare of a scenario. So yeah, it's a world that feels inhabited. It's a world that feels like it has been overgrown and overrun by the apocalypse. And this is just kind of what's left. Those moments of humanity are important for that. Like, it's important to kind of highlight those. And that's where a surprising amount of the emotion in the movie comes from, which is something I really didn't expect. Like, I really figured this would be pretty paint by numbers, right? It'd be a zombie movie and, we got to get back home. But no, like, from the end of the first act, I felt like I didn't know where it was going. And I was very excited by that because, God, if it's going to do anything, don't let it be boring, right? Certainly isn't.
Yeah, it goes in directions that you may not think. It definitely went in directions I didn't think it would. And I love to be surprised at the movies. I hate to go in and basically know what's going to happen. Like we've been talking about with these live action remakes, that you know every single beat along the way. So it's exploring a lot of new things. Lots of religious allusions. It's not about religion per se, but there's references to like David and Goliath, Moses in the basket, that kind of things. It opens with kind of this church setting that comes back around. Speaking of which, there are some small setups to the second film, which comes out in January, which I won't talk about here because it's going to give too much away. But it is continuing the story, but this also works on its own. You don't feel like you're not ending on like a cliffhanger or anything like that. So
I guess one more question before we jump into final recommendations. Is a third movie getting made? What do you think? Because based on the initial box office, it made like 60 million opening weekend. Like, probably. Unless the second one is an absolute bomb or something, it seems like 3 films are happening, right?
It's going to have legs, I think, but it doesn't really have a lot of competition horror-wise. You have Megan 2.0 coming out this week, but that's a completely different kind of, more campy kind of horror. And then you don't really have anything else horror-wise until the end of July and into August. So I think it might have some staying power. And I know lots of people have gone to see it a second time. I definitely want to see it a second time in theaters before it's gone, just because it's such a fun time, and there's a lot of rewatchability in it. So I think they're going to make a third one.
Perfect segue for recommendations. Andy, would you recommend 28 Years Later?
Absolutely. This is one of the best movies that I've seen this year. Exceeded all expectations. A lot of fun, good performances. It's got some really scary, really tense moments, really heartwarming, heartbreaking moments as well. Great performances all around. Really interesting filmmaking choices from director Danny Boyle, and interesting themes and undertones from writer Alex Garland. This is the first time those two have worked together in a really long time, and they're kind of opposites in a lot of ways. So highly recommend.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think this movie rocks. It might make the top 10 of the year. I've seen a lot of people saying this is one of the best films of the year, easily. I did not believe it before going to see it. I was like, come on, y'all are just zombie movie heads. It can't be that good. No, it's that good. There's something really special going on in this movie. You should check it out. And then sequel's coming out in January, so we got to be getting a trailer in, a few months, right? Like maybe some kind of teaser. I don't know. Definitely holiday. We'll be seeing a lot of it, so... yeah, that's 28 Years Later. Golly, we got to talk about trailers. Like I said, packed episode this week. We got to move into it. I am not taking the first one. Thank God. Andy, you give me a second to breathe, and you're going to tell us about this trailer. What do we call this segment?
It's time for the trailer park.